Welcome back to Building and Breaking, where we talk about how brands are built, trust is broken, and what salon owners, hairstylists, creatives, and pro beauty brand leaders can learn. I'm your host, Nina Kovner, and today we're talking about a brand that I have promised on a few episodes that we would talk about. And yes, today we're talking about Red Lobster. Now, of course, we're not specifically talking about the beloved cheddar biscuits, even though, yum. I have actually had those before. But what we're going to be talking about is what happens when a brand abandons its promise and loses sight of what matters and finds itself in trouble. And more importantly, what it takes to get back on track. Because, here's the thing: losing focus, getting out of alignment can happen quietly. It can happen in small, almost undetectable. Is that undetectable? Um, Decisions, small decisions made over time. We've talked about that in several episodes. It is typically not obvious when trust is eroding. But it can happen in an instant. We've seen that. And with my optimist mind, rebuilding trust is hard but simple. It's not easy. It's simple if brands are willing to do the work. Now, full disclosure, I think I've been to Red Lobster once. I think I don't, Gen X, I don't know. Things were a little fuzzy growing up, but I do remember going there in the last, I want to say 20 years. And I feel like it was in the Valley in LA, San Fernando Valley. And I feel like it was like some sort of like graduation. I don't know. Something was going on. Here's the thing: I don't eat a lot of meat. I don't eat a lot of fish. I am not plant based or vegan or vegetarian, but I'm very leaning towards that. So, like, Red Lobster would not be my first choice. However, I did notice that there was one in Salt Lake City that is next to one of the Starbucks that I go to and not far from my lash artist. So, I really, really do want to go. I will update you once I have the full Red Lobster experience. Okay. But as I've shared on previous episodes, they caught my attention, of course, with the bankruptcy and the endless shrimp thing. That caught my attention, a few years ago. And then what really caught my attention was the new CEO. So we're going to get into all of that. Red Lobster didn't end up in bankruptcy because of one bad decision, except, of course, that endless shrimp deal really did. It was kind of like the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. It was a financial nightmare. It was an operational nightmare. But at the end of the day, taking a step back, it just was losing clarity of brand promise and brand story. It really just, and again, these are small decisions over time. It stopped making decisions from that core promise, what it was known for, why people loved Red Lobster in the first place. Instead of asking the question, does this decision align with our promise? Does it deepen trust? Does it deliver what our customers love most? And, we've all been there where we've made decisions that have not been aligned, that have not been in the best interest of those we serve. And those we serve could be literally your customer, your client. If you're a lease based salon, your tenants. If you're an employment based salon, your employees. So, obviously, if you're a brand owner, many of you are serving multiple audiences. So it's not just waking up one day and saying, like, yeah, no, we're going to make really terrible decisions. It's staying so clear on your brand story, staying so mindful of your brand story. Because again, it is your GPS, your North Star, it's your filter to say, you know what? Yeah, this really aligns. This really feels good. I can see how our clients are going to see value in this. Or, you know what? No, this actually is a terrible idea. But the real story here, honestly, that I am so inspired by, and again, I've talked about this on a handful of episodes so far, is the new CEO, Damola Adamolekun. Adamolekun. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Adamolekun. I practiced actually, and it's possible I got it wrong. So apologies. Damola is the youngest CEO in Red Lobster's history. And that's cool. Like that's a milestone. That's amazing. Um he he has a lot of experience. I believe he came from PF Chang's. Don't quote me on that because that I'm 99% sure. Anyways, but here's the thing. Here's where he caught my attention. He didn't hide in a boardroom. He didn't walk into a bankrupt iconic legacy brand and just like dive into spreadsheets, even though I'm sure he has a lot of spreadsheets. He showed up on TikTok. He listened. He read the comments. He answered tough questions. He addressed the chaos, whether it was endless shrimp or whatever. And there's so much to be said. Last week's episode on Rihanna, we've talked about this personal brand and business brand intersection and how, in many cases, what people are looking for today is they want to know the person, they want to know the people, right? It's not about the mission statement on the wall. It's not about some performative PR. They want to really hear from the people in a human way. And Damola has done that and continues to do that. In fact, when Red Lobster launched the seafood boil, which did go viral, um, there was some pretty specific customer feedback. And he didn't disappear. He didn't wait. He didn't just quote unquote like let it die and fade away. He acted quickly. I mean, when you think about just your own salon or your own business and how much it takes to add a new service or just all the operation side of things. Now think of a national chain or a global chain of anything. And to be able to move quickly is difficult yet can be very powerful. And he acted quickly. He added more seasoning options. He again came back on TikTok and said, "We hear you." Three powerful words from a brand, from a leader to a customer, to a team member, to a tenant. We hear you. I hear you. Simple, not always easy. But that kind of real time listening and that being visible and following through is very rare, very rare. And, we can ask the question, why? Fear. I mean, there are still CEOs and executives from pro beauty brands who we've never seen, who have never come on TikTok, who have never come on Instagram, who have never shown their face. Now, sometimes, a majority of the time, it's fear. Sometimes it's not thinking it matters, right? Like some people are like, "Oh, they don't care about me." Yeah, we do. We do. We want to see you. We want to hear from you. We want to get to know you. We want to know there's a human behind that bottle or behind that plate of lobster. Like that creates deeper emotional connection. So some of it's fear, and some of it went back to fear, wanting to control a narrative that they've lost control over. So what I mean by that is back in my day, when I was an executive, there was no social media, right? And so marketing messaging was very much driven by a marketing department, right? Or education or whatever, advertising, PR. It was all driven by the corporation, and that has turned upside down in such an amazing way, but it does create at times some uncomfortability for executives that haven't quite figured out how to navigate that democratization of the customer. But the customer is the narrative now. They are. They are telling the stories. And it's so powerful when they tell the stories because people trust people. People trust people. So your clients raving about their experience has way more power than you creating a post saying clients love our experience. That's why testimonials and reviews can be so powerful. And what Damola has just proven and shown consistently is that it's not just about showing up and making cute TikToks. It's about responding, right? It's about responding. It's about we hear you. Whether it's a client wanting to give feedback instead of getting defensive, instead of being reactionary, we hear you. Team member having a challenge, we hear you. A tenant having a challenge, we hear you. And that responsiveness, that's leadership. Now it's not always fun. And it doesn't always mean that if there's like we're not doing absolute black and white thinking here. I'm not talking about really horrible clients, okay? I'm talking about everyday clients that have high lifetime client value, the amount of happiness, joy, referrals, and revenue that client brings you over the lifetime of your relationship. If they have feedback, let's listen. Let's listen. Okay, so now we're kind of like honing. The rest of this episode is very much about Damola. So one of his first moves was to simplify the menu. I'm going to say that again. One of his first moves was to simplify the menu. If you've been listening to all of the episodes of Building and Breaking, I think you've heard me talk about this. There is a recurring theme. Yes. Yes. Because things get out of control. People just keep adding shit, and that stresses the system all the way through for clients, for teams, for inventory, for operations, for profitability, for everything. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So he went in, he cut down a number of items, removing the slow sellers and focusing on core offerings that deliver value, what the people want, give the people what they want. And of course, streamlined operations. We talked about this in the Southwest episode. We talked about this in the In and Out episode. We talked about this in the Trader Joe's. I think we've Madison Reed episode. We've talked about this in so many episodes. I promise you, there are the service menus in salons are either not in the customer's language, right? We've talked about that a lot, especially if you've been in A school, or there's 4,000 options. That is not customer friendly. In fact, I was looking for a hair colorist over the weekend. And I mean, I do what any consumer does. I go on, I look at Google Business, I look at Yelp, I look at Instagram, I look at TikTok, and then I, click through. Awesome client journey, intent, search, discovery, action, right? Intent, I want something, search, I'm going to go look for it. Discovery, yay, found it. And action, I'm either going to book or bounce. Well, I bounced off every single one. And the reason I bounced is the menu was so complicated, I couldn't even figure out what the fuck. I lost patience. Very confusing. Good lessons here. And that's something that I teach and have taught since I started Passion Squared. I was raised by, the philosophy of simplicity in business, and it has served me well, and it has served many brands well. Okay. Anyways, side note. So, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, Damola said there's a lot of non-core stuff on the menu that not only complicates the kitchen, but it confuses the customer. When you come in and you get three menus, it's difficult for operations and it's difficult for customers. So, sound familiar? This isn't a restaurant problem. Any business, product line, too many SKUs. We've talked about that. Talked about that. So, simple is not easy because we have to make difficult decisions. Like, well, there was a client that came in 1962 that wanted this type of style and it's still on the menu. No, no, no. If you look at revenue, anyway, you're a beauty brand exec, you're a salon, you're an independent stylist, doesn't matter. Run a report and look at your revenue by service and revenue by product. And I promise you a majority of them are going to fall into the 80-20 rule. 20% of your services are bringing 80% of the revenue. 20% of your products used are bringing in 80%. There are opportunities to create more efficiency, more simplicity, more operational efficiency, and ultimately more profit. So by focusing on the menu, what Red Lobster did is it freed up resources, right? It improved execution and it made the experience easier and more enjoyable. Again, simple, 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 but it's so easy to lose sight of that. So, following that menu simplification, of course, Damola had to focus on bringing back what customers love and getting rid of shit that is not serving the organization. So, getting rid of that endless promotion, which again was one of the final nails in their coffin, pre reinvention, reintroducing nostalgic favorites like hush puppies and popcorn shrimp, um, small, cost effective improvements, whether it's music, the way the table is set, and they are in the plans for a remodel. Simple, simple. It's not like a big flashy bells and whistles. It's about taking steps for realignment and decision making and anchoring those decisions in your brand promise, in your brand story. So again, it's not it's we all get off track. We all get off track, but once we identify that, those are the steps we take to get back focused, to get back on track. You know, I truly believe that this transparency is one of the most powerful trust builders because Damola isn't hiding. He isn't hiding. He isn't putting out performative press releases. He is acknowledging head on, yeah, this was a mistake. And this is what we're going to do to change it. And this is our commitment to you. Clients and customers do not expect perfection. And I know we have a lot of perfectionists listening because I am a recovering perfectionist. I've talked about that since my first book in 2013, Follow Your Heart. But what they do expect is honesty, is clear, transparent communication, whether it's about pricing, services, agreements, all of it. Trust is built on promises kept. So, rebuilding takes time and rebuilding takes consistency. And I know sometimes we all get a little impatient. I was very impatient last night waiting for the surprise Taylor Swift countdown. Let's hear it for TS12. I'm so excited. If there's any Swifties out there, I am looking for Swiftie friends because literally I don't have any. Okay. So if that's you, just slide into my DMs. I'd love to chat. Okay. I digress. So rebuilding takes time. And again, that consistency builds trust. It's not just about one big, yeah, look at us, right? It's a series of small, consistent, aligned decisions. Again, aligned with the brand story. As of now, it feels like this is going to be like a real comeback story. And again, my optimist really hopes it is. I am rooting for them. Well, I'm rooting for all of you. I mean, I always am. But it's so important to remember there's no quick fix. I don't think I told this story. I don't think I've told this story on the podcast, at least this reimagined podcast, Building and Breaking. I've told this story in our A School program for over a decade. And one of my mentors, his name is Luke Jacobellis. He is formerly the president at Paul Mitchell. When I met Luke, he was head of operations. And this was back in the late '80s. We're going back to the late '80s, and he was an operations guy from Xerox. And Paul Mitchell at the time was growing so fast that they were struggling because that growth can really put stresses on systems that aren't fully built out. And so Luke was brought in to build systems to allow the company to actually continue to ship product. That's basically that's the short story. And there was a time where I was incredibly stressed out, impatient that things weren't moving as fast as they needed to be. I can't remember the specific thing that was happening, but I asked Luke, I said, how did you feel when you walked in the company? Because it was messy. There were shipping problems, there were back order problems, there were a lot of problems. And he said, I made a list. I made a list that's incredibly long. And I still have that list. And we're talking like 20 years later. It's like I still have this list and I just keep checking stuff off the list. And that really stuck with me because, especially for those of us that are impatient, and just don't want to wait around, right? We abandon the idea, the project, the whatever, and on to the next without fully allowing whatever that need to do thing is to actually be implemented. This could apply to anything, a team training that needs to be implemented, and you just like abandon it before it's actually had time to marinate and grow. A new client marketing strategy, consistency around home care education, whatever it is. We creative people tend to abandon stuff a little too quickly. And in recovery, if anyone's in recovery circles, you may have heard something like, don't quote me on this, like don't leave before the miracle or something. I don't know, is that an AA thing? Anyways, I mean, we just human nature, we tend to do that. But we have to remember that there is no quick fix. There really isn't. This is about listening. This is about simplifying. This is about aligning decisions with your brand story, that compass, that GPS, that North Star. This is about consistency because consistency builds trust. Consistency builds trust, right? Shampoo, rinse, repeat. Shampoo, rinse, repeat. And remember, consistency doesn't equal boring. It's not boring. And if we stay focused on who we serve, because our brands, whether it's personal, business, product, service, our brands are about who we serve. And I know that you would not have created a brand if you did not have a servant's heart, right? That's what keeps us going, is our passion to serve. So Red Lobster's comeback isn't about endless shrimp or viral TikToks. It's about a leader willing to get back to what matters, listening, aligning, simplifying, and leading with clarity and empathy and care. And these are all the same tools that you have, whether you're a salon, a hairstylist, a beauty brand. And you can get off track without noticing. We all do. And yes, even maybe get to a point where trust is broken, but you can rebuild. We can rebuild with intention, with consistency, and with care. If you are on TikTok, I highly recommend following the Red Lobster account. There's just so much I believe we can all learn from Damola. And it is such a, it brings me so much joy to watch people grow, to watch brands reinvent themselves. Like, this is my life's work. This is why I do what I do. Is the joy and the happiness that I get watching my clients grow as leaders, as human beings. I'm not just talking about like a P&L. I'm talking about even bigger. Of course, growing the P&L is good too. It brings me joy. And so I like to follow people that I am inspired by. I think we all kind of like feel that way. And so I definitely recommend giving the Red Lobster account a follow. And when I do go, when I do make it to Red Lobster, I absolutely will give you an update. Not sure what I'll eat there because again, I'm not like a big like animal eater person, but I know there's lots of things I definitely can choose from the menu. So I'm really, really excited about that. And I'm really, really excited. I can't remember now if I talked about this on the last episode or not, but I have a new program coming September 15th of this year. Now I know I'm not doing like a countdown like Taylor Swift, and I'm not going to be on Travis Kelsey's podcast tomorrow like Taylor is, but I have something really special coming September 15th on Instagram. It's called Mentored with Nina Elkovner. And with the closing of A School, which again, is a very difficult decision for me to make, but I I believe it's the right decision. With the closing of A School, I thought I was kind of done. Like I'm like, I don't know. Like I don't know if I have anything left. Honestly, I'm being completely honest and transparent. Speaking of honesty and transparency, I just wasn't sure. After 11 and a half years leading A School, I thought I was kind of done. I'm not done. I am not fucking done. And it's something I've been sitting on for a very long time. And I just decided, you know what? I need to try this. I want to help as many people as possible. I'm turning 59 in October. And while I am still full of energy and passion and all of those things, I mean, I don't have a ton of years left, right? And I'm not done. I'm not done. I truly believe that, as I have shared before, that so much of the systemic dysfunction that occurs in the salon industry is because of a lack of understanding around brand fundamentals. And I'll die on that hill, literally. And so I've created something that is going to be accessible, affordable, and actionable. And again, with a goal to touch and impact as many hairstylists and independent hairstylists, employee hairstylists, salon owners, lease based salon owners, employee based salon owners, creatives of all kinds. That, yeah, I'm not fucking done. So, more on that. And if you are not following Passion Squared on Instagram, I highly recommend you do because something exciting is coming September 15th. At Passion Squared is where you can find me. I have shared before, I think it was in last week's episode, that I am evolving Passion Squared from a business brand to a personal brand. So you will see a lot more of me serving you, which I'm really excited and nervous. Of course, I'm nervous, but I'm excited and it feels right. It feels like the right time. I think that people should have access to facts, to fundamentals, and uh, and that's what I'm bringing. That's what I'm bringing to the table. And meeting people where they're at, right? People on, you're on it. Many of us are on Instagram. Many of us are on Instagram. So, Mentored with Nina Elkovner, coming September 15th, 2025. I can't wait. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for sharing these episodes with your business besties. That makes me so happy because, again, the more people that can understand these brand fundamentals, the less systemic dysfunction we're going to see in the salon industry as a whole. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your ratings, your reviews. They help this podcast become more discoverable. So these episodes can help more people. And again, that's why I'm here. I mean, that's why many of us are here because we have a passion to serve. We have a passion to empower. We have a passion to make an impact and to make a difference for those we serve. And that, my loves, is a fucking gift. It truly is. Thank you so much for listening. I am so grateful for you. Have a peaceful day. Bye.